Oh, thank God.
Okay, Trevor, you just joined right when I clicked the live button, so we are live here. No, yeah, we had everybody. We had a few problems with hopping. So my name down there may say Heather, but I don't look like much of a Heather. I'm on my wife's computer right now. So, but meet the SALT lending team, and this is Nicole, Emily, and Trevor. And I've actually done a good bit of borrowing through SALT lending recently, and I felt like it was important for everyone who is here. I know a lot of you are college students, and you're trying to figure out how to get through school and pay tuition. And, as we all know, the existing sort of college lending industry is, I like to say a little predatory, where you wind up, going for a few years and borrowing money. Ultimately, you graduate with, $50,000, $100,000 in debt that it takes you, maybe 10 years to pay off. And based on the way these amortization schedules work, you might wind up, borrowing $50,000 and paying back $150,000. And so it's just, monthly loan payments, depending on how much you borrowed, it may be, $500 or even $1,000 a month. I mean, this is more than, this is like a luxury car payment. And so, I just thought it was important to introduce you to some new ideas about, essentially borrowing money to pay for tuition, that are possible now that weren't possible a few years ago. And that's called crypto lending, where, either you or your parents can put up crypto collateral. And, Bitcoin is the one that I always borrow against because, even though you might see news about Bitcoin fell by $5,000 or it went up by $10,000, the reality of it is Bitcoin is priced so high right now at say $50,000, $55,000, $60,000 that even if it falls by 5% or goes up by $3,000 or whatever, these are really small fluctuations that are not going to get you in any trouble with a crypto lending platform. And so, and again, and more importantly, and I know that I'm not, no one can promise you what Bitcoin is going to do. Or history shows that it's likely that Bitcoin will appreciate over time. And so if you think about that, there's a chance that you get your parents to say, instead of giving me $5,000 for next semester or, $20,000 for the next year, why don't you just buy 0.5 Bitcoin and toss it over to SALT lending and let me borrow some money against it. And pay my tuition with that. And, the worst you're dealing with is if Bitcoin crashed down to zero, which is highly unlikely, then SALT lending has a product called stabilization that would make sure that the Bitcoin doesn't actually go that low, that it essentially before it goes too low, it gets converted to what's called stable coin that you can use to pay the loan off. So either way, the worst case is your parents are out of the money for the tuition. But the best case is if Bitcoin keeps appreciating, then say 4 years from now, because it's very likely. I mean, you've seen, if you just, again, look at history, no one can make promises. Bitcoin has done better than double every year. And so if Bitcoin doubled or quadrupled or even more within 4 years, then now you basically owe $50,000 that you borrowed against this 0.5 Bitcoin. But the 0.5 Bitcoin may very well be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars 4 years from now. Again, no guarantees, but it is possible. And I know this because I just did this, as Nicole and Trevor and everybody know. And she asked me this morning, I just paid all my loans off with SALT. Why did I do that? Well, it's because I borrowed $125,000 against Bitcoin. And in what was it, like 3 months ago? Mm-hmm. And in that process, I've made some investments and made over $600,000. And while I was doing all this stuff, Bitcoin was going up. So I was able to pull excess collateral off the Bitcoin and keep investing it. And so this is something that you can, and I did that for investment purposes, but for the purpose of, covering your student loans, just understand there's a chance that you could have your parents pledge some Bitcoin that you can borrow against. And 4 years from now, you graduate, you have a lot more excess collateral than you originally had, which would, again, no guarantees, but you could sell a little bit of that off to pay the loan off. And either your parents or you would have a whole bunch of excess Bitcoin left for you to start your life with and everything. So it's a much better than traditional college lending. And I just wanted to let these guys explain to you what they do. So I appreciate y'all coming on, and I'll drop off and let you go.
Great. Thanks for having us. I guess we'll let Trevor kick it off. He is our lending manager at SALT.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a great introduction. For those of you who aren't totally familiar with SALT lending, we are one of the original crypto-backed lenders in the space, meaning we've developed an asset-backed product where, like Leroy had explained, you can use Bitcoin or a combination of other digital assets that we support on our platform as collateral for a loan. It's a term loan that you can choose a lot of flexible options from, We don't offer any or charge any origination fees or prepayment penalties. You can choose between 3 or 12 months in the term, and flexible repayment options between principal and interest only. And as Leroy explained, collateral that you're using is the digital asset like Bitcoin or any combination of the assets that are currently stored on the platform. And you will over collateralize by the loan amount that you're looking for. For example, if you're looking for a $5,000 loan and choosing a 50% loan to value, our loan to value products will determine how much collateral is required for the loan amount that you're choosing. So a $5,000 loan would mean that you would be pledging and securing in our secure custody set up on the platform, Bitcoin or any combination of what would be equivalent to $10,000 worth of crypto assets. And then we send you funds. So the application and underwriting and funding process is very easy in comparison to what you guys might be used to in applying for student loans, mortgages. What we're really looking for is to simplify the process, verify the collateral, verify that you're applying in a jurisdiction in which we can lend. And from there, the application and funding process is very easy. And it can take anywhere between 2 to 3 business days from beginning to end. And then we send US dollars. We have a couple options to pay you out in funds. We can send US dollars to a bank account that you verify in your application process within our platform. Or we can send you stablecoin crypto assets to a payout address that you specify on the platform as well. And so that's the gist in some more detail about how the loan product in itself works. But what we have really built is a very high-performing, robust platform to be able to support not only the loan product, but the safety and security of your crypto assets, which is a very important piece in this industry right now. As far as, safety, security, and knowing that your collateral is safe with us, and that at the end of your loan, that collateral all comes back to you. Any price gains that you have, all of those gains continue to remain in your ownership. And we just secure the assets during the duration of the loan that you guys have with us. And so we have seen a lot of really interesting use cases in the traditional finance world, whether you're using it for debt consolidation, which could directly apply to any student loans that you have. Large purchases, we've had people buy engagement rings to propose to their significant other. We've seen down payments on homes, people buying real estate in cash this way. Lots of really interesting use cases. Adoption. It's really neat. So what we've really developed is an option for people who have invested in these crypto assets to be able to utilize them without potentially having to sell them on an exchange and have a taxable event. With us, you can safely securitize and store those assets, use them as collateral against the loan. Once the loan's paid off, the ownership of those assets get transferred back to you. And if there's any other questions, happy to field those and also pass it off to Nicole and Emily. And they're just super talented members of the team at SALT as well. And you guys just let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Trav. So I think, Emily, I'd like to kick it to you. Emily started out as an intern. I think she's maybe one of the youngest we have at SALT. So you want to kind of give us a background on how you found SALT and kind of what brought you into crypto, like through your college journey?
Yeah, so right now I'm the digital marketing manager at SALT. And so I pretty much manage our social channels and our email marketing. And I started in 2018 as an intern. My aunt actually worked at SALT. And so she let me know there was an internship available. I started with that. I really didn't have much crypto knowledge or really, I just knew the word Bitcoin. But like after I started my internship, it was a pretty fast learning curve. I, was just able to learn a lot about all of crypto and pretty much gain more better financial skills just in general too. And then about a year later, I started as the social media manager, and now I'm digital marketing manager. So yeah.
Yeah. I think Emily's had like a really tremendous, awesome experience with the company. Like, just our company is built on do the job you want before you have it. And there's so much room for growth within this space that, you know, Salt Lending really appreciates the initiative. And like Emily's like just a really great example of that, of someone coming in, learning really fast and kind of, you know, wanting to climb that ladder and grow with the company. I got into Salt, I don't know, I think 2019, summer of 2019. I came from oil and gas accounting. It was just horrible. I wasn't looking to go back to anything corporate ever again in my life. And I just took an interview at Salt and started as just a support associate. And now I'm on the lending team with Trevor. I think the whole crypto space is really going to disrupt everything. And the word disrupt is just something that I love to be involved with. It's something that really drives my career and everything that I like. And for those of you that maybe don't know a lot about blockchain and crypto, and it's super confusing, I do have a recommendation. It's called The Bitcoin Money, A Tale of the BitBull Discovering Good Money. It's literally cryptocurrency as explained to 5-year-olds. Highly, highly recommend it. You can get it on Amazon, probably other places, but this is just a gold standard to really just sit down and understand Bitcoin in under 5 minutes. But yeah, I mean, we work with a lot of people globally. It's certainly the most fast-paced, interesting job I've ever had. And we are, you know, really opening up, you know, a different type of security net for countries that maybe don't have currency. I know there's some South American countries, Middle Eastern countries that their currency is so just collapsed and inflated that some of these places, like Bitcoin, is really the only way that they can pay for goods and services. So I am really happy to be a part of that team. And I think what we do, allowing you to hold on to your crypto while still leveraging those gains, is really powerful. And I guess that's it for me. If you guys have anything else.
Yeah, I think personally, crypto is just a good tool to, I mean, just generally learn about it too, just to understand our financial system a little bit better. I mean, financial literacy, it's not taught in school, like even inflation versus deflation and basic terms like that, you know, I have learned throughout and I wish that I learned in high school. Bitcoin has taught me that in kind of different ways a little bit.
Yeah, and so, and I'll answer that question. Is NFT a form of crypto? Yeah, it is. And we're going to get later on today, we're going to have a panel discussion and we'll talk a little bit about NFTs and stuff. But yeah, so the process of applying for a loan with Salt is, you know, and there's a lot of, there's other lending platforms out there. One thing I've liked about Salt is Nicole, you know, if you apply for a loan with Salt, you're probably going to interact with Nicole quite a bit. And if you ever have any questions or whatever, there's always a person there that's going to respond to you. It's not a fully automated platform with no contact link or anything. And but it's a, you know, it feels like it's a lot more fast moving than your typical borrowing process. But in some ways, it still does, you know, have, you know, where you're ultimately, when you move your collateral over there and you initiate the loan, you're going to get a DocuSign, or your parents, if they put the money up, will get a DocuSign and they'll sign it. And then basically once that document is signed, there's essentially the next step is funding. And as they said, you know, you can choose to be funded either in, you know, fiat directly to a bank account or in stablecoin. You know, I usually always get funded in stablecoin because I'm generally borrowing to kind of go make more deals and wheel and try to make money. But in the case of a college loan, you know, it will probably be that you get funded in the form of a bank account. And so, you know, generally you will see, I can't remember, I did it once with a bank account, but I think you put it, do you also do the test transaction on the bank account, or that just goes out right then like that? Yeah. Okay. That was just, yeah. And so there's a couple options, you know, you might want to let your parents know about, which is, you know, you can, and I'm not sure if you still offer the opportunity for them to buy Salt to actually lower the interest rate. Is that still an option on the loans or what?
Yeah.
Not directly through us.
I mean, but yeah,
on the open market.
But that little slider down there where you can buy the Salt to kind of like, yeah. So basically, like, you know, Salt has its own token, and one of the uses of that token is, you know, if you want to lower your interest rate, then you can go pick up Salt, you know, and there's a lot of ways to pick that up, including you can swap on a DEX, or just go look at CoinMarketCap and look up Salt, and you'll see the exchanges down there where you can buy it. And then if you, and it's a very small amount of Salt to actually lower your interest rate tremendously. And then also, this is not like doesn't have to be like a typical kind of like principal and interest type deal. There's a couple of options when you borrow from SALT where you can say, I just want to do interest only. And that way, the monthly payment is very small, and it's just the interest. And but yeah, I mean, it's a really good option because again, the worst you're looking at is that your parents, if Bitcoin took a nosedive that like in 2018 from say 20,000 down to 3,000. I mean, if we had that level of crash, then SALT has a product or a sort of a system called stabilization that will make sure that the collateral never goes below the loan amount, and that at worst case, it gets converted to stable coin and it's still available to pay the loan off. And but best case, Bitcoin continues appreciating, and by the time you graduate, you have a lot more collateral there than you need, and you can sell some of that off to pay the loan off and still have the rest of the collateral left. And so those are really the two possibilities you're looking at, and either one of those is better than going deep into debt and spending 10 years after you graduate making loan payments. I mean, in my opinion, realistically, I'm 46 years old, and I think I had loan payments well into my 40s.
Well, and I think another great thing about the loan being over collateralized the way that it is that we don't do any credit checks. It's just, it doesn't matter on these loans.
Exactly.
So I know when I was going to school and I needed loans, it was a matter of like, do I get money from my parents, or, do I try to get loans? And that was a really scary position to be in because I didn't even have a credit card at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't have any kind of credit history. I didn't understand what I was signing. So, that is another, even if you want to use it for school books or just spending money while you're in school, to have that backup, it is good for people that don't have credit and don't want to go that traditional route.
And here's some other interesting things to think about. So let's just say let's play some role playing here. And let's just say because none of us know what this market is doing. But let's just say if for one semester, first of all, when you approach your parents and you say, Mom, Dad, can I have $5,000 for next semester? And you take the money and you blow it on and it's just gone. Sometimes really, truly, it might be harder to get them to say yes than if they felt like they were actually buying an asset that, that might appreciate. And so like, if you say, Mom, Dad, will you please buy some Bitcoin and kind of loan it to me? And you don't even have to give it to me, give it to SALT, just set up the account and to give it to SALT and they'll hold it there, sort of like, almost like a trust type situation. And it's technically not, but really it's like the parent would set up the account with SALT. They would put the Bitcoin in there with SALT, and then SALT would issue the money back to them and they can pay the tuition. But here's a possibility. And again, no one can promise this, but let's just say, a semester goes by, and by the end of this semester, you're rolling into next semester, and Bitcoin goes up enough where there's a lot of excess collateral. You can generally reach out to SALT and tell them that you'd like to refinance the loan, which y'all are pretty flexible on that. You've done that with us before. And there is a very good chance that, again, if we stay in this bull market right now, that as each semester passes, your parents either don't even have to give you any more money because Bitcoin has gone up enough that there's enough excess collateral that you can just borrow against the excess collateral and cover your next semester. Your parents put up this initial amount, buy the Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin funds the rest of your semester. Or next semester, if it goes up a little bit, but not quite enough, they can put up, let's just say at this time, they only have to pay like half a year, put up like half of the amount, just add a little bit more collateral, borrow against it. And so again, nobody can promise where Bitcoin's going, but for me personally, this is what's happened to me. I actually started buying Bitcoin at about $15,000 a few months ago. I bought 2 of them, threw them into SALT, borrowed money. Before the money even hit the bank account, Bitcoin had already gone up so much. I was like, whoa. So there's all this excess collateral, so I put all that money and made some investments, and then I pulled the excess collateral out of that. And I actually, and it's so weird that I actually turned $125,000 in SALT loans into about a $650,000 to $700,000 portfolio now. And so this is just one thing that the lending has been good for. But I just think like college funding is like the next best thing as far as I'm concerned for college lending, because you're guaranteed to graduate debt free. Even if Bitcoin crashes to zero, SALT will catch it on the way down and you'll still have that money to cover the loan. And so, and best case, if it goes up, especially if it goes up fast enough where every semester it's going up to create enough excess collateral that you can refinance and pull out that extra, then ultimately one purchase of Bitcoin, could be enough or close to enough with a little bit of extra along the way to fund your entire college education. And then at the end of the day, just your parents can just sit on it long enough until it at least has enough excess collateral to pay the loan off, and they basically get their money back or better. And so just definitely take crypto lending very seriously, and take a look at saltlending.com, and reach out to Nicole or Trevor or Emily if you have any questions. And also one other thing I wanted them to tell you about is they mentioned that they had a scholarship and some internships available. And so I don't know if you guys want to talk about that.
That is more on our, so.
I mean, maybe not right now, but you were working on that or something like that?
We do have a scholarship program. We have D that, Emily, do you have more information on that? I was kind of far removed from it.
Kind of just generally, yeah, it was a scholarship for General Assembly for, I think it was a 8-week long coding boot camp course. And so Dee, the recipient of our scholarship last year, she did the 8-week coding camp, and then she started with SALT January, not first, but the first week of January. And yeah, she's been an intern with our developers ever since. And I think her internship's coming up to an end, but she's been a great asset to our team and has really, I mean, she just seems like a part of the team now. It's really great.
I
know. Yeah. But I definitely think we're hoping to do that again this year. And we do on our newsroom, on our website, there is more information kind of about like what that scholarship was and how we worked with General Assembly with that.
Yeah, so any of you bright students who are interested in possibly working with SALT, definitely reach out to them. But more importantly, maybe send the SALT lending link over to your parents and just try to help them understand. Okay, so all of these videos from these talks, we're gonna actually, you'll see the schedule if you go to knackathon.org here in a few days, and every single talk that we had, there'll be a play button there. And so you should definitely go to grab that, basically just send the Knackathon link to your parents and tell them to go play this session right here and get to help them better understand crypto lending. And the fact that they're basically, instead of giving money to pay for tuition that's gone forever, they're buying Bitcoin to collateralize a loan, and that and that there's all kinds of benefits to that. But we do appreciate you coming today, Nicole, Emily, and Trevor.
Yeah, I have a few more things that I can just generally talk about.
Sure.
So we do have 4 positions open right now. It's really exciting. So if you go to our site, saltlending.com, and scroll down to careers, we do have 4 positions open that we're actively looking to fill. We are a distributed team, so you can pretty much be anywhere so long as you're willing to work US hours. And I think generally we like to have you stay in the US, but it's a tremendously awesome team to be on. We started in a little Denver office. I shouldn't say little, it was a big office, but now we're nationwide. We're a distributed team, which has been, quite the adjustment, but we all work really, really well. And I was going to make one other point, and now I'm brain farting. Oh, I would just say, if you don't know that much about crypto, my entire first week was spent reading about Bitcoin and watching videos from Andreas Antonopoulos. I think he does an excellent job at explaining it at a level that a beginner can understand, because the big thing about crypto and blockchain is people don't get it. And going to your parents, like my own parents, like I'm in my 30s, trying to explain this to my own parents. So, I would check out that Bitcoin Money book that I suggested. And I would really, if you want to go this route, educate yourself first so that you have an easier time explaining it to your parents who maybe are not comfortable with any non-traditional kind of money scenario. And the easiest way to get into crypto, if you have Cash App, you can buy crypto right through there. My own girlfriend that knows little about Bitcoin, but just supports the heck out of me, she buys like $25 every paycheck, and she's so proud of herself. So a lot of different avenues to definitely educate yourself on this, if this is a route, and understanding the volatility and the risk with crypto. But I mean, there's risk anytime you take out a loan that you may not be able to pay it back, or unforeseen circumstances during your 20s. It's just part of life. But we could be a really great alternative.
And I think those are great points. And the one thing I would add to that too is, if any of you guys are interested in creating an account to look at the platform and navigate it, to get more familiar with what we've discussed, or loop your parents into a phone call, Nicole and I are available. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So you can visit us on our webpage. Our contact page has a direct line, phone operation, or you can send an email. And what we would be more than happy to do is set up a meeting with you or your parents, or talk about the concept, answer any questions that you guys have about the product process, how to get onboarded, how it would all work, step-by-step review and answering of questions. We're happy to do. And so that's what we make ourselves available for. And so if there's any more details you want, you can certainly reach out to us directly that way.
Yeah, and there was a couple other things. I'm kind of, sometimes I have some severe short-term memory loss here, but I've made some notes here. Okay, so one thing I had a couple people mention something, and I just want to make kind of clear is that, and no, to answer that last question, no, you can't. It's not just Bitcoin. So on Salt, you have what's called a collateral portfolio, and there's a handful of coins that you can use to collateralize it, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin. I don't know. There's a handful of other ones.
Litecoin.
Yeah. Okay. And I actually have, even in some of the loans, I'll mix it up. I like to call it like a diversified collateral portfolio, because sometimes you might have one thing fall and the other thing doesn't fall, or if one thing falls really hard, the other thing falls less hard. And so sometimes it's good to kind of collateralize your, diversify your collateral portfolio and mix up several different types of coin in there. I usually make Bitcoin the most of it. So, I mean, I think even in my diversified ones, Bitcoin is probably, 66% at least. But I do have some that also had Ethereum and Doge in there. And I mean, even during these deep crashes, and people laugh about Doge and it's a joke and everything. But the reality is Bitcoin crashed and Ethereum crashed and Doge just ran sideways the whole time and actually stabilized my portfolio quite a bit. So, hey, you can laugh at the Doge all you want, but Doge kind of helped me out. And another thing to understand is really when we're talking about these crashes on the market that might jeopardize the loan, first of all, again, this stabilization feature that Salt has will make absolute sure you're never going to wind up losing your collateral and also owing the loan back. So that's literally impossible with Salt. I mean, the worst you're dealing with is if it crashes too much, and we're talking like a really steep crash. I mean, just so you understand, like since I've been borrowing from Salt, we've seen some crashes. I mean, we saw it go all the way up to initially it was, who knows? I mean, it was like way up in the 50s, and then it fell all the way back down to like 43 and then went back up. And so as it's going down, you have these different levels where Salt will send you essentially, like the first one is, let's just say you borrow at 50% loan to value ratio. So that means like if you put up, say 10,000 in Bitcoin, you can borrow 5,000. And so that's a 50% loan to value ratio. You've borrowed 50% of your collateral. And then it would have to go all the way to 75%. Okay. So the collateral value would have to fall all the way to 75% just for you to get a warning. We're not talking about you getting stabilized or anything. It's just to get a warning. And you're going to get an email and a push notification saying, hey, keep your eyes open because we're in a danger zone. Okay. And then from there, it would have to fall even lower. I think it goes down to something like 85 or 80 to 85%. There's some number if you set up the Salt account, you'll see right there the target levels and how far it has to go.
Yeah. And so 75, 83, and then 90%. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. So when you're between 75 and 83, you're in this margin warning zone. And then when you get to 83, then they do a margin call, which again is a little different from a margin call in stock. I mean, that's still really, it's really just letting you know, hey, you're getting even closer now, and you're at risk of us doing a stabilization on you. We're actually asking you to take action at this point and put up some more collateral or make a payment against principal to bring the loan down, because you're getting really close to being stabilized. And this is not like some other places where stabilization means they just take your collateral from you. This is just, when you get down. And so then you get all the way down to 90% loan to value. I mean, this is it would take like a severe crash for this to happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't even know what I don't even know what a crash would look like at this point. Like it goes down to 40.
I mean, if that happens, we're talking about like global economic depression or something.
Yes, right. Like I was kind of considering that. I was like, wow, like it's gonna go down to 40 and we're gonna have like a heyday,
exactly.
The more and more it's worth, the less and less that gap is getting of like what a crash is actually going to be.
No, yeah, and one thing to understand is like if your parents buy the Bitcoin and do the loan, and then 3 or 4 months goes by and Bitcoin is always going to go up and correct and go up a little more and correct.
Yeah.
But like if they leave it in there and it goes up and it's up and up and through, then you're going to get to a point where your LTV is so low that even if it did crash by 50%, you're still probably not even going to get a warning, because I mean, it would just be crashing back down to your original 50% anyway. So now, you don't want to be a cowboy like me and keep pulling all your excess collateral out. I mean, or again, if you're borrowing against it, to pay future tuition, just make sure, my rule of thumb with SALT is always to keep it, around 60 or in the 50s, kind of that's kind of the safe area that I always keep it in. And so, and then, but yeah, I mean, it's just understand that it would take a tremendous crash. I mean, we're talking, I don't even know what the percentages would be, but it would be a very, very huge crash where your LTV gets down to something like 90%, which is a lot, before you actually deal with stabilization. And then at that point, you're only dealing with conversion to stablecoin. They don't void the loans, or take the collateral, or say, hey, I'm going to take it and pay the loan off. They just convert you to stablecoin, and that's it. And really, if you're an investor, you want that anyway. I mean, I wish I had my own personal stabilization product where if Bitcoin crashed too much, it would convert me to stablecoin. If I wake up in the morning, I'd rather have stablecoin with Bitcoin way down here than actually have Bitcoin way down here. So, so that was one thing I was going to talk about, and the other thing I forgot about, but I'll get back to it. But yeah, no, I really do appreciate you guys talking about this, and it's been a.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. So I think there was a crash a few weeks ago. I think that it really affected Ethereum.
Yeah.
And I think our CEO shared some graph of like an outstanding amount of people got liquidated. So when you are using these other platforms,
on other platforms, not on y'all's platform.
Not on our platform. Yeah. But I mean, that's, when you really start getting down to the nitty gritty of like what we do, like some people call and it's like, well, what makes you so special? It's like, do you know who your loan officer is at these other companies? Like, you're calling me, you're trying to feel me out, but you can't call anyone else at these other companies. It just doesn't exist. I mean, you are kind of letting them hold on to your asset and hoping that, everything goes well. And people really, since I feel like COVID has happened, the thing that I've seen the most is people want things on demand. Like they want faster service. They want things here and now. And, people want money quickly. So they will go to our competitors. And I mean, Trevor and I can usually turn things around in 24 to 48 hours. It's not even like we're that fast, but people want this, instantaneous experience without working with a human.
Yeah.
And when market crashes happen, they don't have anyone to talk to.
No, and that's an important point to understand. What she just said is,
and I can't calm them down, because when we had the event last March, I think all of us were in the office till close to midnight, just taking phone calls to calm people down, be like, hey, you're okay. We're on top of it. Yeah. We're gonna, we're here for you. Like at these other companies, you just don't get that experience. And that's what I love so much about my job, is like, it is that human interaction. It is decentralized. It is all these things. But at the end of the day, we are traditional in the sense that you will have an account manager like myself or Trevor or Dan. And we always want to do what's best for you. And we have 24/7 support. I also am the support team leader. I have agents standing by 24/7 to answer any questions that you may have as well. So for us, it's a highly, personalized experience. And I think that above and beyond us being, kind of one of the original lenders in this space is really, what we do the best.
Yeah. And so that's one thing she said that you should definitely understand is several things throughout the talk. But number one, just make sure that, and that's the question I had. Let me, okay. Let me make that note there so I don't forget that here. Okay. So one thing to understand is that, from the moment that either you or your parents decide, depending on your age, and that was my question, is how old does someone have to be to actually do a loan with SALT directly?
18.
Okay. So good. So a lot of you in college, and there are some high school students and middle schoolers here, but a lot of you in college are old enough to do this on your own. And if you had, obviously the money to do it, which is instead of putting the money into tuition, buy Bitcoin, put it on SALT, borrow against it. Now you have Bitcoin and college. So this is smarter. But one thing to understand here is that we're talking like days, like 2 to 3 days from start to finish. We're not talking about any credit checks. There's none of this stuff. Okay. It's like, if you own Bitcoin, then we're ready to roll. Okay. You basically, you go over there, and within like probably 60 seconds, you can create a SALT account. The user interface is super simple, and there's like a big button up there that says like, start your loan. And you basically, you click it, And then there's like, you just put in the amount of money you need to borrow, and it'll tell you how much Bitcoin you need to have there, or other tokens. But I mean, I recommend that you borrow against Bitcoin, at least initiate the loan with Bitcoin. And then if you want to mix in some other stuff, you can, once you have excess, pull it out, whatever. But we're talking like from the second you click that, I want to do a loan, and you send that collateral over there, you probably within the next day, usually that's been my experience, you're going to get, worst case, maybe the day after, but usually the next day you're going to get a DocuSign and you sign it. And then generally that very next day you'll get funded. So worst case, in my experience, unless you do it right on like a Thursday or Friday and you got to roll through the weekend, we're looking at 48 to 72 hours from the second you send the Bitcoin to when the money hits your bank account. And so, if you're rolling up on a semester and you need some money fast, it's just that fast. And the refinance for me was also that fast. I shot an email out and I said, I've got a lot of excess collateral and, can we pull some more money on it? Nicole says, sure. She shot over another contract. I signed it. Next day, the money was in the account. So this is like some lightning fast funding.
And sometimes even faster with the refinance, right?
Yeah.
Because you've already completed your entire onboarding process. Yeah. So it's all done. So what we're looking at is either drawing on excess collateral in the account or looking at any additional collateral deposits that you're looking to make, making sure that those line up with the loan to value requirements, sending you a new contract, and then we're into the funding process. Yeah. So very quick and easy, just like you described. I think how you gave an overview, especially touching on stabilization, was really good. I'm not sure I could have done better myself. That was excellent.
No, that was
we're going to review this recording later.
Yeah.
And
no, that was a major feature. That was a major feature. That whole crypto lending thing, pardon my French, but I just used some better French, scared the bejesus out of me. Because I looked at some of these other platforms and, they just, you get to a certain level and they literally just take the collateral and that's it. And you're done. And they apply it to the loan and they say, okay, your loan's paid off. But for me, it's like, I'd rather just convert to stable coin. My loan is still in force. And then give me the choice. I can either say, you know what, Saul, go ahead and take the stable coin, pay the loan off, and we'll just be done with it. Or, I'll send you a little extra collateral. Let's convert back to Bitcoin and keep riding. But I want to be the person that actually makes that decision. I don't want to have that decision made for me. And so that was like the main thing that made me go with Salt versus say, even Maker, for instance. Maker has this idea where you can put your stuff in there and collateralize it. It issues, you die, and so on. But if your collateral falls too much, boom, you're wiped. And a lot of other platforms are like that. So,
and I think there's one additional thing that's really important to know that you brought up about stablecoin, that we have other functions built into the platform that make stabilization or makes stablecoin, very useful. For example, we have a push payment function where you can self-direct principal pay down, partial principal pay downs,
I just use that.
Repayments, by just sending in USDC, for example, which is US dollar coin, which is one of the stable coin assets that we support on the platform. Or you can choose to pay off your loan in full in stable coin. So we have all these great resources built in to pay out, to pay down, to make repayments with stablecoin that I think have become very useful and popular for a lot of our borrowers.
Yeah, I just did that. I just did that last night, and that's nice. So you go over there and basically you click, make payments. You can either make a one-time payment or pay off. And then when you make a one-time payment, it gives you the option. Is this just a standard kind of principal payment, or do you want to apply this directly to principal? And just know that like if you did want to make a partial payment against principal, that lowers your monthly payment, right? And it also frees up a lot of your collateral. So, so that's kind of interesting. But no, it's a fascinating product you guys have put together. And I think it's probably, I would definitely say absolutely the safest way for college students to borrow money to go to school. And it's also the one that has the most sort of legitimate process involving, a DocuSign and everything else where there's humans involved and you kind of know who you're dealing with. And, so just wanted to get y'all up here and let you tell a little about what you're doing and hopefully help some of these students graduate without big piles of debt, Yeah,
absolutely. And like Trevor said, like we're passionate about what we do, in every sense. And if you just want to set up a phone call to even just chit chat about how blockchain works and Bitcoin and like, we're happy to take your calls. I love sharing what I know, and I love empowering people with that knowledge to make, not better decisions, but, maybe just look at money from a different perspective. So even if it's just a friendly, how you do, like, can you explain more? We're happy to take your call. We're happy to work with you.
All right. Well, if anybody else has any questions, you can drop them in there. Otherwise, I will let everybody take a break for lunch. And we really appreciate y'all coming here. So
Our pleasure.
This kind of stuff can change lives, you know. So
do you have anything else you wanted to add, Emily? Sorry, we kind of just took over here.
No, I think you guys hit it all. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will let you all go, and I really appreciate this again. And I've also enjoyed doing business with you. As you know, I still have quite a bit over there, and y'all help me. Y'all really, I mean, literally, y'all help me just make over $500,000. Thank you. Holy
yeah.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
The pudding with Leroy. He's one of our like star borrowers.
No, this is crazy, man.
Proving how our system can help you.
Yeah. So
but yeah.
Yeah, we'll just be waiting to hear from you when you're ready for your next loan. You just let us know.
it'll probably be pretty soon, days.
All right.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, I'll be in touch, and I appreciate y'all coming.
Great. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right. Well, that was Salt Lending, and I definitely think that's worth looking at. I talk a little more aggressively about this kind of stuff because I am a crypto investor and I use crypto loans to, borrow against Bitcoin to buy other early stage altcoins. And because those tend to move faster than Bitcoin. And so I get the best of both worlds. My Bitcoin keeps appreciating, which means, my excess collateral is going up and I can eventually use a little bit of that to pay the loan off. And I kind of win on the Bitcoin side, but then I also use the borrowed money to buy altcoins and I spread it out across multiple bets. And all it takes is a couple of those popping up real quick, and then I can, so on. So I do a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to tell you about that later. I'm very successful at it. We're actually launching a boot camp around it. But as I've been doing this, I've been thinking, Jesus, I'd love to teach students how to borrow against Bitcoin to pay their student like college expenses. Because again, I firmly believe Bitcoin is going to keep appreciating over time. Even we went through this 2017-18 18 crash, and then it's of course recovered. And you got to understand, like that was 2018. This is 2021. A lot of you would still have been in school during that period. So the worst you'd have faced would be the stabilization piece, and your loan still gets paid off. Best case, if you can somehow navigate through it, you wind up graduating with a bunch of excess collateral. And so again, this means you could graduate with your loan paid off, with possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pocket to start your life, buy a house, start a family, buy a car, do whatever you want to do, live the life of your dreams. So, let's break away from this old world of college funding and let them have that and do something smarter. Learn how to fund your college through these crypto loans. It's a better, so I will see you after lunch. Bye.